thought it was 10:30, but this workshops are about radical simplicity, and it's the title of my book, and that was published in 2003. And just to give you a little flavor of what I mean by radical simplicity, I'll just read a bit of the opening, and just to give you a flavor. So imagine you're at a potluck buffet, and you're the first in line. How do you know how much to take? Imagine that this potluck spread includes not just food and water, but also the materials needed for shelter, clothing, healthcare, and education. It all looks and smells so good, and you are hungry. What will you heap on your plate? Now, how much is enough to leave for your neighbors behind you in the line? Now, extend this cornucopia to today's global economy, where the necessities for life come from around the world. 6 billion people, shoulder to shoulder, form a line that circles around the globe to Cairo, onto Hawaii, over ocean bridges, then back again around the globe 180 more times. So I'm a recovering engineer, and I actually did the math. We lined up shoulder to shoulder, just human beings. We would circle this planet 180 times. Okay, so now 180 times around the Earth, we're lined up for a potluck buffet table. Here it is in front of us, and it's everything you need, not just food, but it's your, how you're going to get around, healthcare, everything. Little vouchers there, and you're the first in line, and you can take as much as you want, right? No one's going to stop you. Okay, with plates in hand behind you, all these people 180 times around the Earth wait in line, hearty appetites in place. And along with them are the giraffes and cliff springers, manatees and spiders, untold millions of species, millions of billions of unique beings, all with the same lusty appetites. And behind them are the soon-to-be-born children, cubs and larvae. A harmonious feast just might be possible, but it requires a little restraint, or shall we say a tamed appetite, as our plates become a shopping cart, become a pickup truck, filling our house, attic, garage, and maybe even a rented storage unit, with nature transformed into things. Now, as we sit down for a good hearty meal with new friends and creatures from around the world, what level of equity would we feel really great about? At what level of inequity would we say, wait a minute, that's not fair? So, my mom had a daycare center, and so I saw 2,000 children come and go. We live above and below this child care center with 80 children a day coming and going. And, if you say to a child, one for you, one for me, one for you, two for me, they're probably going to be all right. Then you say, one for you, three for me. At one point, a child, like a 3-year-old, would say, busted, that's not fair. But right now, myself living on $5,000 a year, I'm part of the richest 17% of the world's people. If you look at the gap between the wealthiest billion and the poorest billion, the gap is 250 to 1. So I'm part of the richest billion people on the planet, part of the richest billion. So the richest billion, if you average us, the average is $70 a day. The poorest billion is 25 cents a day. That's like $100 a year, the poorest billion on the planet. It's 250 to 1. No child, no 3-year-old would ever let this inequity get this big. There are people that are actually 700 million people with stunted growth or mental retardation from lack of caloric intake. Just not enough food. In this country, we spend $40 billion on diets to reduce our caloric intake. So this kind of craziness is what radical simplicity is about, but it's not just about, say, what are all the problems? It's about how do I want to live in such a way that would be fair? Like if you're at a potluck table, and across the table from you are people from India, from Africa, from China, from Europe, from Australia, I don't think any of us could say, well, I'm going to take like 250 times more than you. Like we could do it. Like none of us could do it if we had to look at the person in the face. But with our economy the way it is, we do it through how much money we earn and how much money we spend. It's just simple. That's how we do it. But we don't see the connection. It's like the money is an abstract thing. To me, when I look at a dollar bill, like you take one out, this is nature transformed into this. Because I'm going to spend it on something, whatever I spend it on took sacred beings. And they were transformed from being natural and native and wild. Like I love that Sting song, Set Them Free, you know. If you love someone, set them free. You know, these beings around us, if we don't consume them, they're still free. They're free until we consumed them, until we bought them with our money. And it's even a massage. Somebody had to heat that room, had this massage table, market and make cards and flyers and pamphlets and pay for the advertising in the magazines. All that took resources. So no matter what you're consuming, if it's healthcare, if it's education, huge ecological impacts with all these things, services, adventures, traveling, consumer goods. But I find if you start seeing this not as this, like if someone hands you a paper napkin, you see a tree. You don't see a paper napkin. You just say, like who heard of the 3 R's? What are they? Reuse, reduce, recycle. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Reduce is first, right? Then the reuse, and then the recycle. I've got 2 more R's, but you can make up lots of them. But I like the rethink is a nice one. And then the one I really like is a refuse. Refuse me. Like when someone goes to hand you garbage to eat your food off of, you just say, no, I'm asking for food, I don't want garbage. Well, how can you do this to be a refusenik? It's not too hard. So a little demonstration, okay? Once you have one of these, you're a refusenik. If you don't want to buy this, you just buy 1 bottle of water, or I take them out of the dumpster and wash them. And then I have a water bottle. And then I just keep that bottle and use it 1,000 times. You know, a water bottle will last like 2,000 times you fill it. And now you've had to save 2,000 water bottles from being thrown in the recycling bin. Recycling is stupid. When you don't need to recycle. Okay. This is a pretty brilliant invention. It's a metal tin cup or a coffee cup or a reusable mug. You can fill this 2,000 times and it's not going to say, oh, I'm done being filled. You can fill it another 2,000 times. And now, no, you haven't ever had a paper cup, a sleeve to keep your, and then a lid that, you know, and then a wooden stirrer. You know, just say no. Like, I'm not going to take it. Refuse. Refuse, Nick. I'm going to tell you, refuse-nicks. Do I have any refuse-nicks with me? Refuse. Okay, they're going to give you a food on a plate. You say, no thank you, I want food, not garbage. Okay? I don't want a treat turned into garbage. I don't want a fork that's made of cornstarch. And it was manufactured in a big facility and delivered across the planet. I use it to eat my food for 30 minutes and I throw it in the garbage or a compost bin. We don't need this spoon. I can use it like 40,000 times and it still is a spoon. And nothing had to be manufactured, shipped, composted, all that stuff. And the corn ones kind of melt when you stir eat your soup and everything. Like everyone's worried about it, like, oh, they're going to melt. I'm like, this is not that hard, come on. It's 2008. Like if it was 1940 or something, we have a reason, we could have an excuse for like eating on something, using it 30 minutes and throwing it in the compost or the garbage. Today I'm saying we don't really have that, we know. You know, we know enough. So, okay, how many packet, like styrofoam, like things that enclose your to-go meal? Like, if you brought something like this with you here today, at the end of the 2-day, 3-day festival, you could have generated 0 compost, 0 recycling, and 0 garbage. 0. Like, not like reduced by 5% a year. Like, reduced by 5% a year was okay like 40 years ago. Like right now it's like refusement time. Like we have people who don't have enough food because we're putting ethanol into our cars, and so they don't have the land because it's growing corn using, you know, biotechnology corn, and so we can put it in our cars because we don't want to drive with it. That land shouldn't be growing corn. It shouldn't be growing broccoli. It should be like wild indigenous forest. mostly, and then humans create these little highly efficient, beautiful organic gardens a little bit. And if we lower on the food chain, we wouldn't, it's like 30 factor to eat vegetable instead of meat, beef. Factor 30, to feed 30 times the people on the same piece of land if you were a vegetarian versus beef eaters. It would be different if there was like a 500 million of us, but there isn't. There's 6.5 billion of us. It would be different, so this is kind of this refusenic thing. If you just do any of you love being weird and different? Who loves being weird and different? Raise your hand if you love being weird and different. Like in this society, if you start doing this stuff, you're going to be so weird and different, it's going to be so crazy, you're going to love it.
But it's not all weird and different. I mean, it's the old Vermont lifestyle,
Hallelujah.
Use it up. How's it go? Use it up, wear it out, make it do, or do without.
I know. We're living in a place where there's a long history of this, right? Farmer who knows what to use baling wire for. Like everyone's got a spool of baling wire. You can fix things forever. Well, I was working at Dartmouth for 2 years as their sustainability coordinator, and I just had this little sustainable dining kit, and I had a really nice cloth napkin. It's more colorful and fancy than this one, but I sat down to have my lunch in a dining hall that had everything in garbage. Like, you couldn't get out of that thing without garbage. I managed to. I had my own container, my own fork and spoon, my own little cloth napkin. I sit down to eat my lunch at a big round table, and you just sit with other students, And I'm this new professional with my tie, and I'm the coordinator working at the provost office. Got my cloth napkin, my silverware on it, my omelet in a container. It wasn't this one, but it was a little nice Tupperware container, and my coffee and my reusable mug, and my water was out, everything. And a student from Turkey sits down next to me. And he's looking at me. And he's just looking, And then he looks over and he says, "I feel terrible." And he's like, "Well, what's the matter?" He's like, look at all this garbage that I'm eating from. Look at all this stuff. He said, "In Turkey, we don't do this. We don't eat off of packaging. We don't do this in Turkey. We have all plates and forks and cloth napkins." It's like, he said, "I've only been here a week and I'm already getting used to it." That kid, gave me my marching orders, I got my marching orders. That was my first week at Dartmouth College. And actually, when they hired me, I had 30 interviews. And one of the interviews was a group of 12 students. First thing they said is, "What are you going to do about the garbage in Collis Cafe?" And that was the cafe I was sitting in with my thing, when the student and I were talking. "What are you going to do about the garbage? How would you address it?" Because we used to have a dishwasher and real forks, real spoons. They took it all away from us. They didn't ask them when they took it away from me. They asked me, "What are you going to do about it?" So I kind of had my marching orders, and then the student really empowered me to say, "What are you going to do?" And it was exciting. So then in the end, we created a waste-free dining hall, one that you could go and eat, and there was real everything. I couldn't get them to do the cloth napkins. I had it all worked out. It would be so easy, but they just wouldn't go for it, like the dining hall people. But it was so easy. For 12 cents, a company will deliver all washed napkins, cloth napkins, and they'll come and pick up the dirty ones once a week. So a student could, with their meal card, take a napkin, and it takes $4 off your meal card or whatever, the cost of replacing the cloth napkin. You return it to the wash bin to wash it whenever you want. You can keep it for a week, or keep it for a day, or keep it for a month. When you return it, you get the $4 back on your meal card. And we'll wash it for free. It says 12 cents, right? How simple, but they wouldn't do it. You couldn't get administration to do certain things. We got them to do a lot of stuff, but they wouldn't do that. But, we were trying to push the envelope. But we did get all the forks, spoons, plates, cups, And actually, after a year of that thing running, some friend came to visit. I hadn't been in there now in 6 months to see how things were going, because I'm busy on other projects. So I just said, well, let's go take a look and see what's happening in the waste-free dining hall. So we walked through. A year ago, you could have walked through there. This dining hall did have plates before, but every time you would come, the server would say, do you want it to go or for here? And the student would say, go, give it to me to go, because I want to be able to shake my salad dressing into my salad. And if you have that clamshell plastic piece, you know, clear plastic, non-recyclable clamshell, which is like 12 cents each to buy, to shake their salad dressing. Or the students would like walk through the dining hall and look for a friend that they want to sit with. And if you don't see any friend, then you don't sit down with someone you don't know, because I don't know you, I wouldn't want to eat food with you, because that's... So if they don't find a friend by the time they get to the door, then they keep walking. You know, so that's why they would take the to-go container. So the new thing what it did was, we didn't tell the students nothing, we just said, the servers don't ask anymore. All the containers evaporate, there's no to-go containers anywhere, you can't see them. But they are there for a student who says, I need my to-go, you know? So we had a few complainers. So we put them over in a cabinet that was closed, and it was down there, and it was way over there. So you had to go over and get it, bring it over to the server, and then give it to the server. And then it was kind of out of there, no one else saw it too much, you know? And the servers never asked. So now, after a year, I walked through the whole thing with 700 people eating, and 3 were eating on to-go containers in the dining hall. A year ago, it was half were eating on to-go containers in the dining hall. In the dining hall. It's so simple, but Dartmouth was spending $1.15 a day to give students garbage. Like if you add up the list, like you look at the spreadsheet of what they would order, like 3 different size lids for the coffee cups, 3 different size coffee cups, 3 different size sleeves, the wooden stir, then you get to the cold drink cups. Those are 3 different size cold drink cups, 3 different size lids. And then you go to the plates. Well, there's a little plate, there's a bigger plate, there's a plate to put your ketchup in, a little plastic one. You know, there's like, but when you add those things up on a spreadsheet, there's like 3 pages of items, and total cost is $1.15 a day per student. That's 5,000 students. Now, if you go to Waste Free, that's $5 grand a day to give them garbage to eat off. You have 900 square feet just to store the garbage. In downtown Norwich, Hanover, that's worth about $3,000 if you want to rent a space that's 900 square feet in downtown. And this is just storing containers. Then you've got to pay the dump to take it. You have to pay the janitors to take it. You have to pay someone to sit there and order it all day. So you see this thing that seems like, oh, it's so convenient. Don't you hear this? What is so convenient about having garbage? Like, to me, this is more convenient. To be honest, like, this has actually been more convenient. But then it's just natural. It's just natural, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
It's just natural. So there's first the stage, I call it unconscious unsustainability, right? Like, you're just unconscious and everything you're doing is unsustainable, like 100%, like deeply unsustainable. Then you get to where you come to some festivals, you read some articles, and you realize, oh my God. Like, you realize, like, everything I'm doing is unsustainable. So you're so consciously aware that you're so unsustainable, it's unbelievable. And then I heard this guy who does wilderness awareness, he says you hit the wall of grief. Like, when you realize the pain and suffering caused by our lifestyle, the Native Americans who suffered the genocide of us coming to this country purposefully and giving them smallpox blankets, like written documents saying you'll do well to exterminate them with smallpox blankets. You know, it was biological warfare. This wasn't like, oh, by accident they got sick by us, you know. Innocent people, we didn't know we had a cold and we're going to give it to them.
Give them some onions and get rid of the cold.
Yeah.
It is.
So, yeah, but then you go from consciously that you're unsustainable to you're conscious that you're sustainable. Like, it takes a lot of work to become sustainable because everything is new. Like, everything you're doing in your life is going to be different. Like, when you look at our activities in America from A to Z, they're pretty much unsustainable. So you got to do everything different almost. Everything. Like, rethink everything. Everything, you know. There's not a thing in our, hardly anything. So, but it can be exciting because we love, like, the challenge, you know, of, like, getting something new happening. It's so exciting. It's so refreshing and new. And wow, I'm learning. And I'm like, oh, I'm so alive. And it's so challenging because everything has to be new and different. take it like this exciting challenge. Okay, then finally you get to the point where it took 3 or 4 years, but you worked it all out. You've got it, like all your systems are in place now. Like I've been washing clothes by hand since I came back from India in 1993. I wash them in a big aluminum tub I got out of the dumps, and I get a brand new strong toilet bowl plunger, and I put them in the water and I plunger them. And I let them soak, and then I have an old ringer a friend gave me, like the old 1910 ringer. And it flattens your zippers and breaks your buttons. And I learned it after I flattened all my zippers and had to refix them. But so, you know, I run them up to the zipper and then back them out, you know. So I've learned all my towels, all my sheets, all my socks can go through that thing with no problem. But people say, oh, how can you, like, does it take so much time to do all this stuff? How can you do it? Well, I fill the root cellar every year. Almost all my food is from, you know, what I grow. I dry my own herbs. I got bags of nettles dried, bags of dandelion greens dried. I just walked the AT for 5 weeks. Every night I had a big wad of nettles in every meal I made. Big wad of nettles, big wad of dandelions, big wad of basil in there, like a lot. So it's supercharged nutrition, right? So dry, a little pouch. But I was so happy I did all that the winter before. People say, well, how do you have time to do all that? Well, since I quit my job in '89, I've donated like 25,000 hours free of charge. Quit my job and live simple. For 18 years, I've had 25,000 hours to work for free. Well, how could you have 25,000 hours and still do all this stuff? People say it takes more time. I don't like add and subtract how much time it takes me to wash my clothes. But in the end, if I had to buy the clothes washer and the dryer maybe, and then the real estate in the house it takes, and to run the utilities through them, to fix them when they're broken, and then you still got to load them up, you still got to unload them, you still got to deal with everything. It's not really taking me much more time to wash the clothes by hand. And then if you don't have a washer and you're going out to the laundromat and coming back, I'm guaranteeing you I'm spending less time. And then for me, it puts me in solidarity with 2 billion women on planet Earth who wash clothes still by hand. Now, okay, Dartmouth, lots of learning moments. There's a young woman from Africa who grew up in a little village. And I did a talk for the medical students, and I was kind of talking this radical stuff like I'm talking here. I didn't change my pitch, you know. She came up after me after the talk, and she was almost crying. Beautiful young woman from Africa, a little village. She says, you know, in our village, when you have a problem, like everyone is there to support you. This is a village where they make on average like $100 a year, okay? She says, when we have a stressful time, the whole village helps you. Here at Dartmouth, when you're stressed, you're just as stressed. No one's here to help you. Like, wow. Dartmouth's to a top 10 campuses in the whole nation, and there's no one here to help her. She feels isolated and alone. Like, what is going on? And then she says, I never put my clothes in a machine in my whole life. Like, for her, it's new to learn to run the machine. She said, in my country, and she did the motion, you know? And it's like, whoa, she's done that motion for like her whole life. My friend went over there to volunteer with Partners in Health, and the people said, that's not washing, that's squeezing. He never did it, you know? He's a college grad, he never washed clothes with his hands. So the people like couldn't believe it. Like, he had to be trained to wash his clothes, like how to do it. When he told me that, it was so cute. Like, that's squeezing. It's like, you know, but she had the motion, you know? It's like, it was so cool. Like, you know, it's just fun, you know, to see like the motion. So she has that in her, because I was talking about washing my clothes by hand, so she was sharing that story. But she was like mind blowing that if the Dartmouth students lost their clothes washer, they would be really perplexed. Like, they'd have like it'd be really, really a tough, like really tough. Like they would be a mountain of laundry. Like when they go home to their mom, you know, it'd be like shipping boxes home to their mom, airplane, and their mom would be shipping them back washed in a box, you know.
I have one student, and his mother was telling me she got his clothes at the end of the semester, and he just went out to Walmart and bought new tube socks every time he needed them.
Oh,
She
yeah.
had 4 garbage bags filled with tube socks.
Yeah, I mean, you can hear some crazy stories, but it's kind of like, for me, it's getting this stuff into your bones, playing with it, like having fun with it. Like for me, when I wash the clothes, occasionally, I'll be honest, I'm like rushing to get it done. But this past year, I spent 2 months, I turned 50, okay, and I said 50, ooh, I was depressed. The whole time I was 48, 49. Like, so depressed, you know? And I had a new midlife crisis. I was like unsure of my life. I didn't know what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I was like feeling like the world's going to hell in a handbag, and I've got no friends. You know, just like for me, everything, you know? And then, so I said, I'm going to spend 2 months on a sailboat, and then I walked for the Appalachian Trail. I just got off it a week ago for like 5 weeks on the Appalachian Trail. Now I'm going to kayak for a few weeks on the coast of Maine, you know? So I did all this, but I read The Power of Now on the sailboat, and then I just read The New Earth, you know, Eckhart Tolle's 2 books, you know? But it was like, his whole he was on Oprah, right? 180 million people watching Eckhart Tolle and Oprah. And he's like
700,000 by the end.
700,000. It's crazy. Yeah. People watching it. And so I was watching. I downloaded the podcast. I haven't had a TV in 30 years, but I downloaded the podcast and I'm watching Eckhart Tolle. But he's saying the same thing in a sense, like, you know, when you're washing the clothes, you wash the clothes. Like when you get up in the morning, you're in the shower, you're already like halfway to the office worrying about what you didn't do. Like, isn't it a nice feeling with that water running over your body? You know, it's so nice, you know, like, just like to be here, like, wow, this is nice, you know? Like, wow, and be thankful, like gratitude, like, wow, I have water that's running over my body. Like when I was in India, you had cold water in a bucket and you pour it over your head, you know? And twice in 6 months, I paid someone to warm up the water, like twice in 6 months, like, you know.
I was lucky when I got a tub and was sitting in India.
Oh, it's sitting in a tub. So, you know, his gig is like washing the clothes, so it is a meditation really. Like, most of the time for me, since '93, it's a time for me to just be there with the clothes and wash and let my mind relax and enjoy. You know, just enjoy the moment. You know, and if you're in Mexico, you see they wash the clothes out in the backyard. You have this beautiful concrete, like, sink that's on an angle with the washboard built into it. So it's ergonomically correct. Like every house has them. The kitchen's outside in a lot of places in Mexico. It's just down there, you know, and they're washing the clothes outside. And you know, the trees are, the herbs are all around them. Like I heard her, I don't know your name, Pam, talking about the, you know, this plant energy. Like they're around, they're in nature. The more you can be in nature, the more. So their homes are small. They're outside washing clothes. So, like, that's fun, radical simplicity. Let me read a little something from being in India. This was a powerful time for me because I spent 6 months in India as part of a research team that went there to learn from the people of Kerala, India. Can I go ahead?
This is about clothes washing. It just occurred to me that the time you spend washing your clothes can also be a time that you reflect on what you did when you were getting them ready to wash them. We all need more time to reflect, and that's a perfect time to do it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's how many here feel chronically unstressed? Like chronically unstressed. Like for me, radical simplicity is not just material simplicity, but we also do too much. Like the kids have too many activities, we have too many activities, we have too many things we want to do, we feel motivated to do too much environmental work sometimes. Like Peace Pilgrim says, if you're doing more than your share, and then you're not doing it peacefully, you kind of are part of the problem. And Eckhart Tolle was saying that to me too, in The Power Now. At first I want to argue with it, you know, but then I listen to it more carefully, and I kind of feel he is right. When you are engaging with someone, like you're at Solarfest and you're feeling stressed and you're busy, and someone's talking to you and coming up to you after your thing and they're engaging, and your mind is like looking around, like trying to get away from this person, you're not present, because your mind is just crazy busy about like, well, what workshop do I want to go to? And you're not with the person. Like you're somewhere else, you're vacant, you know? Or you're talking to your lover and you're vacant, you know, they're like, their mind is on something. Their mind is spinning a tape that's been spinning for years, and meanwhile, you're trying to talk to someone and you see the tape is going. You can't live a life like that. You can't have relationships. You can't like do work for the environment when you have like a negative tape, a tape of worry, a tape of like anxiety, a tape of like what didn't I do, a tape of like I'm so great, I'm the greatest thing on earth, and a week later the tape's playing I'm the worst thing on earth. You know, the tapes are crazy. And you're worried about something that hasn't come yet. So when you're worried about something that hasn't come yet, it's complete projection because you have no idea, like in 3 seconds we don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what I'm going to do. I could like dance around, and, you know, you don't know. Like you can predict what I'm going to do, but you don't really know. We don't know. So why worry about it, right? So for me, that's part of radical simplicity is calming down, letting the mind be quiet. And he's saying, the new earth, that is how you'll find your wildest purpose, you know. But then he's so funny because he makes all these, in the very last chapter, he's finally getting to talk about what his book is really supposedly about, finding your purpose, you know. He spends like half the chapter still telling you have to be in the now. And then finally, while you're in the now, you're going to do something that you're wildly passionate about that's going to help the earth become a better place. But you're still going to be in the now while you're doing it. And even when you're planning, you can, you know, you're like on the bike, you're on the way somewhere, and your mind is like, shh. So you can just let the mind just go quiet, like, wow. Just absorb, like the you know the owl walk that you learn in wilderness awareness where you open your peripheral vision, like how far, like you can see this, right? You can really, you know? And at the same time you can see like, you know how you see the owl go right like this, but you can see how the vision is so wide, you know, so, and then the senses all open, everything's open, you know? So you can be so open, and then the mind is going quiet, like, but then when you sit down and work on the problem that you want to work on, you're present with the problem. So now you really are like going to be like searing efficiency in getting your work done because you're not like always like. Well, I'm a great one to talk about because I do it. So I want to share a little from Kerala. And I'll just share my introduction because India was crazy. Bombay, 2 a.m. I'm lying in a bed with a man I met an hour ago. Yeah. In the dark, we're talking about life. How did I get here? Well, the young woman seated beside me on the plane invited me home to get 6 hours of sleep before continuing on to Kerala. I'm in Bombay. After a word with her dad at the baggage claim, he put his arm around me as if I were his son and walked me to their car. As the reunion at the house wound down, bed space was offered with her brother, a mechanical engineer. I'm an electrical engineer. He's my own age. India's hospitality was immediately revealed. But I had come here to learn about sustainability. So it was just a beautiful time. And let me share this part. I slept lightly from the heat and excitement, but woke refreshed and went out for an exquisite vegan breakfast. To eat low on the food chain here is the norm. Most Indians are vegetarian, although fish and meat are eaten by some. Afterwards, I walked the village pathways, a tropical paradise with a crowded 20th century edge that lessened as I ventured into the hills. On a bluff, I looked down at the next beach away from the tourists. The children played naked in the water. Men loaded nets onto double-ender oar-powered boats. Women filled urns from a fountain and carried them home on their heads. 3 men gathered coconuts. The one in the tree sliced the nuts and green fronds free with a machete. On the ground, another gathered the nuts and fronds into piles. A third made sure no one got bombed. Across the street, 6 women sat together in the shade and wove the dried fronds into panels, a sizable stack taking form. I didn't have to move to see the entire process. The raw material, green fronds, were pruned, gathered, and aged in the shade till brown. then exported across the street to be woven. The finished panels formed a roof here, home siding there, and a small bath hut around the back. A few were exported to the beach to shade the nets, boats, or tourists, and to the village entrance to shade the women breaking rocks. Old decayed panels were used to mulch the ground, building soil and reducing erosion. Forward-thinking Europeans had formulated a business policy which holds manufacturers responsible for their products from cradle to grave. Here there is no grave. What designer William McDonough refers to as cradle to cradle, waste equals food. There were no clear cuts, no factories, no fossil fuels, no insurance, and no marketing. These processes took only the fruits and the pruned fronds. For 6 years, I was a process engineer in a high-tech factory in New York and designed manufacturing systems. Now I was in a real-world sustainable living factory. I linked yesterday's spun coconut fibers to today's freed nuts. I had seen the husks go into a fire to heat a curry pot at the restaurant and tasted the coconut milk and meat in 2 meals. Fuel, food, shelter, fishing nets, ropes, all from one tree, and they never killed the tree. Woo! Like, this stuff is not rocket science. Like, we know how to live way cool. You know, like, we really know how to live way cool. And so for me, it's really like getting us the willingness. Well, how does that come? Like, if you're going to do anything, you have to be like willing and have some motivation. You got to get a little motivated. Like, I want to do this. So a lot of my talks are like pep talks because I want to help get you enticed. Like, when you read the best nature writer, you just like want to put down the book and run out and see nature, but this book's so good you can't put it down, right? So my hope is that you'll get so excited to want to try some of this stuff that you'll really do it. Because if you get the motivation, then I think everyone will figure it out. You won't do what I'm doing. Like Thoreau said, if you put on my clothes, you look silly, right? Because each of us will do it in our own way. That's how it has to happen. We got to figure it out. And like my story, like I saw the Exxon Valdez oil spill, and it changed me. Like I say, pick your disaster. Like my disaster won't move you. And you're quiet enough, and then you see something, it's going to move you. And when you are moved, some will transform and some won't. Some will go to workshops every other weekend, and they still won't come home and change. You know, you become a workshop junkie, but you still can't get the motivation inside to come home and change your life. So I don't know. That's a mysterious thing, how we get the motivation to say, wow, I'm moved. You know, you feel your whole body tingling. You're so alive, like everything is tingling, your whole body. You feel the sensation from head to toe of tingling all at once, you know? And I felt that when those 2 women were singing, what's that crazy band yesterday? Emma's Revolution. Like I was sitting there crying, like from like all this joy when they were singing their second song. You know, like feeling all that. And when you're moved like that, you can get, there's this opening. And then walk through that opening, you know. I think that we can do that, walk through those openings to change, right? I'm hoping that's kind of, so I do spend some time on this motivation piece because I think without it, we could kind of get a little, like, it's not so easy. Yeah.
My experience with that is that the motivation can come from really one of 2 major places, either from pain,
Yeah.
which is what will happen if we don't do something now, or from inspiration, which is what I'm getting now. And I really prefer inspiration.
Yeah. Inspiration. Now, how many here have ever fallen in love? Like, raise your hand if you've fallen in love at least once. Yeah? At least, no? Okay, she said yeah. Raise your hand again. Wait. Who's not? Everyone's fallen in love at least once? Okay. All right. So, can you put yourself back like in the first week or first like 2 weeks or first month, you know? Like, wow, right? You're like, your heart's beating like, woo. You know, you can just think of a person and like, this is happening. And then you're like, you just can't wait, you know? Like, you're not together and you just want to be with them. And then you're like, your phone bill is like crazy. You'll do things like that you never did before, right? You're like, all of a sudden you like mountain biking. Like, whatever, you know, like you'll just like you'll love everything because you just want to be with them and you want to, and then you start dreaming together, right? Like before I was alone, and now there's like two of us, right? And now like all these dreams are possible, and like so exciting, like life is so exciting. And did you ever feel like making a change felt like sacrifice? Like when you were falling in love? Like a year later you might feel like sacrifice. But if you don't let that happen, like that aliveness of that love, falling in love is so powerful. So I feel like when we fall in love with the earth, like we fall in love with each other, all this will be so easy. Like it won't even be, you won't ever say to your friend, oh, it's so hard to change. Like when people ask me honestly, like I was selling first strike capability, I was designing top secret weaponry, and I was marketing to foreign militaries. Like I know the ugliness of war. Like our military is like think of how we killed people like with the atomic bomb in the 40s. Think of how World War I, like hand in hand, like our Civil War, like we just like killed thousands and thousands of people before we even had the technology we have today. Do you have any idea of what a bunker buster is? A cluster bomb, a smart bomb. Like these things have so much power. Like a plane flying into a twin tower, that's not like, it's not meant to be a bomb to kill people. It's got some power. Like one of our bombs got like 100 of those in one. You know, and then we dropped like thousands and thousands and thousands of those on Iraq. And they had nothing to do with anything. Like that's madness. Like it's so mad. And if you get to like understand what $780 billion of spending on that type of pain-delivering equipment can do. Like if you just let that really enter your body, well, I let it enter me when I was an arms dealer. I spent 2 or 3 years in the wolf's den after I started like going and learning about what we were doing at Nicaragua in the 80s. The box I designed, Ollie North was using to communicate to sell the weapons illegally to the Contras to kill Sandinistas in Nicaragua. So I was designing the top secret communication equipment for him. And I thought he was a hero at first. Like I just didn't know. Once you let that sink into your body and like everyone of us who pays taxes is like you're hiring a killer. If you pay taxes today, you are like saying, here, go kill people with my money. That's paying taxes today. Well, if you really face that, it's like I faced it somehow, and then when I quit my job, took the car off the road, 14 years without a car, and lived in one bedroom, and rented 3 out in my house, and planted a vegetable garden, people say, what was the hardest thing? I said, nothing was hard. Nothing. I had to be honest. Like some people say, oh, you shouldn't say it, nothing's hard to people, because then it's hard for them, and if you're supposed to say, when they say it's so hard, you're supposed to say, oh yeah, it is, you know, and like empathize with their hardship. But if I have to be honest, I'm saying this isn't hard. To be really honest, you know, because it's so hard for me to commit pain to other people. Like to pay taxes is so hard. Like to give that check over, or to let it come out of my pay when I know what it's doing is so hard for my soul. Like it's so hard. It's so hard. Like that's hard. To like consume something I don't need is so hard. Like to think about what that thing is doing to the earth. Like when you have a shirt and it's made in China, and to think of a girl being paid 50 cents a day to make it, and she's 14 years old, and it's on your body, and you're wearing it. Now, if you let that 14-year-old girl come in your consciousness and think of your own daughter, and what would it feel like for her to be working those conditions, and all of a sudden you say, I'm not going to wear a sweatshirt. I'm like, I'm not going to do it. And you become a refusenik. You just get to this point where you say, I'm not going to participate in that kind of thing. But I find that makes power in your life. Like every time you, like when you believe in something, but you secretly want that. Like your money is invested in some stock market, and then you're hoping your stocks do good. But if they do good, it means we're ruining the planet. So half of you wants your investments to do good, and half of you wants, you're split in half. And like, I spent 18 years to try to like, I'm nowhere there, you know. I've got lots to work on, you know. some of this is probably, I got a bin I bought from Walmart, that I ride, it's $8, and there it is, that I carry my stuff in to keep dry. So I'm not a perfect guy at all, but for me, it's like not beating myself up like, oh, you bought that from Walmart, you bad guy. It's like being aware that I did it, admitted that I did it, and not, beat myself up and not beat up anyone else. Like, oh, look at you, you're doing this, because that just creates a lot of poison. Like, people kept asking me Eckhart Tolle, oh, my partner, I'm conscious, but my partner isn't. I'm like, are you sure you're conscious? He would ask them. Oh, yeah. It's hilarious, And then you listen to the guy, and he's like, millions of people listen to him, and you're like, holy smokes, man. But then you see your own blind spot, and you have 30 of them. So it's kind of nice to see your own blind spot. We got a question here, yeah?
I was just wondering if you've ever addressed or had an opportunity or through whatever dialogue that, I know you said that in yesterday's address that your father was right of Rush Limbaugh and so forth, but have you ever addressed like the young Republicans or somebody who's a multimillionaire, he says, I worked my whole life for this, I've worked so hard, I've earned this, I really deserve everything I've got. It's not, anything that just fell on me and so forth. And to sort of address that with your sort of lifestyle that they somehow see it, yet they don't quite, they feel that that's kind of stupid and silly. And what kind of reaction have you gotten from those writers?
Well, I've spoken to quite a few right audiences, groups of electrical engineers or like the Kiwanis Club, the Rotaries, and I've done quite a few. What I find is I don't get arguments from Rotaries, and I'll share the story even of my father, 2 Rotaries, and I'll say, look, I'm a flaming kind of like, I don't know, I'm an eco-wacko. But there's a part of me that they understand. Like my father is great when like he would find your hypocrisy and just like like bullet line hypocrisy. So a lot of the right sees environmentalists as like, I want my house on the hill, I want my expensive this and that, but then I don't want anyone else to come in, or it's like it's like preaching but not living. So like the right in the town I used to live in San Luis Obispo, I was really fighting for bike lanes, and they were all saying, no, we need all the money for cars. So I talked to them outside and make friends with them. And then they say, well, how did you get here? And I say, well, I rode. All of a sudden, they just pipe up a bit. And then we start having a conversation. I find out what their kids' names are. Then this guy, he's the head of the electrical engineer, the electricians union in the area. And I was the elected official for the Sierra Club, so I'm like at 1,000 public hearings giving testimony, and he's on the opposite side every time. But I became a friend with him out in the hall. And so one time I said, hey, I'm painting my house, can I borrow a ladder? Because he's got all these ladders. So he's like, sure, so I come over and I borrow his ladder. And then like after that, he's an even better friend. Like he's doing me the favor. But like my dad is the kind of guy who would never pass someone at 2 in the morning broken down because he's a truck driver. Like I've had people, I've been on a back road with my bike and have a flat tire, and I'm like trying to flag a car to stop, and they're all looking at me like I'm crazy. I ran out of patches and I need a little help. There's a car with like, I support public radio, bumper sticker. And it's California, it's a back dirt road, and they just like, they slow down a little, and I watch the window go up. My dad, right wing, crazy guy, would never do that. Like if someone's broken down, he stops and helps them. Like my younger brother was homosexual, and my dad, he struggled with that. But the kids who would like beat up my brother, my father would see him hitchhiking and stop and pick him up. And then he would say, you touch my son, I'm going to wrap you up in a knot and break your neck. My dad is like 5'8", and I've got 3 brothers, and my brothers were bad. One of my brothers put a cop in a hospital. They were bad brothers. Like if I got picked on, they would go in, and I was a skinny kid who could run fast. Like that's my. But my father was strong enough. Like he did weights all the time so he could beat up all 4 of us at once. But, you know, he's got that tough guy, but he's got the warm heart. And I think that's the thing. What I'm finding with conservative people, I never write them off at all, because my mom and dad, like, pick up the garbage. My mom sewed the patches in my dad's knees. She made, like, every rug in the house is, like, wool recycled and braided into rugs that are 40 years old now and look at, like, the first day they were made. She has got all these skills. She fed, like, 9 kids. She picked beans in the field when we didn't have enough money. Like, she'd get boxes of envelopes and we'd all stuff them together. Like, she used to, this is what she did, you know, to feed 9 kids, and my dad drove trucks. So we have all this experience of totally living simple as kids. So you get that and you realize, well, you can't just write off the right. Like, their feeling is, what I get from, I understand the mindset pretty well because I grew up with it. It's like, you are 100% responsible for the implication of everything you do. Now, if you take that to heart, that's a pretty neat challenge. When you take it to heart, and then you get respect from Republicans when you are actually putting yourself and doing it. Like my parents, everywhere they go, they move to the down East Maine to get respect because they're always working. And, you know, the right respects work, you know. They like someone who works hard. So there is, yeah. I just want to touch, how much time do we have left? Do you know what time this finishes?
Well, I think it's 11:30, so it's 11:10 now.
Okay. Well, let's take a few one thing I want to get to is where we are at as a culture together in America. Our average ecological footprints, can you people hear me or should I use the mic? Is this on?
Yes.
Does that help?
Yes.
Then I won't have to shout. But okay, on average, an American's ecological footprint is 24 acres. And what that means is somewhere on the planet, 24 acres is needed to absorb the carbon from when we drive our cars, to absorb the carbon from all the manufacturing processes to make the cars, roadways that are paved, motor vehicles, to grow our carrots, to make our computers, to provide our health care, to educate us, to do. In the back of my book is 100 items on a spreadsheet of food, housing, transportation, goods and services, and our wastes, to absorb our waste, somewhere on the earth. Like I was in India where you could watch from one hillside and see all the things that village used to make their life, like everything in the Himalaya. For me, you'd have to go to a satellite in space and wait for it to turn to see where the bike's manufactured, my computer, even the store clothes, you know, were made in some factory somewhere, you know, whatever. So you wait for the earth to turn. You add up all those little patches, like when you eat bananas or whatever, and all those little patches together to support your life is your ecological footprint. It's not like, oh, I have a 10-acre backyard, my footprint's 10 acres. If you keep it cleared and pastured, then it's your footprint is 10 acres. If it's a wild forest, then it's not. It's nature still. Anything we take away from nature's natural system is our footprint. We hate a field, it's our footprint. If we leave it a wild forest, it's not. So only 4.6 acres exists per person. If you take the earth total, take away the deep oceans, the deserts, the ice caps, and the built-up land, what you have left is 30 billion acres. You divide it by 6.6 now billion people. We each get about at 4.4, really. It keeps changing every year, about 4.4 acres per person. That's our personal planetoid. You could, like, whole little, 4.4 acres is what we get. We use 24 on average in America. What the world uses is 6 on average. But how can you use 6 when only 4.4 exists? That's why we're seeing CO2 levels rising, desertification. We're using the earth 23% more each year than the earth generates. human, one species out of 25 million different estimated species on the Earth, one species is using 100% of what the Earth generates every year, plus 23% more. One. So if you use your whole 4.4 acres, there's no room for other species. So you'd have to reduce by factor 5 from an average American, and you still would be leaving no room for other species. It would be a complete human-centered existence, your existence. So I've asked about 800 audiences, how much do you feel would be ethical and fair to leave for the other 25 million species? Humans use so much, you leave so much wild. On average, people have said 80% should be left wild. It just so coincides with conservation biologists have the same number. Species extinction rates are now 100 to 1,000 times faster than the natural level. The people who study conservation biology estimate that 75% of representative ecosystems, so like wetlands, forests, pastures, all these different types of ecosystems would have to be intact and healthy for us to have a species extinction rate not accelerated. Now, isn't it funny that 800 audiences have the same number as conservation biologists? What it tells me is we all know. Like, we're all sensing. We know we're so far out of whack. It's not like a 20% issue. It's really, so if you leave 80% wild and you get a 4.4 acre share, you have to learn to live on roughly 1 acre. That's really the goal if you want to have a wild, biodiverse planet, is 1 acre. Now, 10% of the world's people do that. But they're the poorest 10% of the world's people. I've tried to do it. My footprint has been about 3 acres for the last, say, since 96. I've been monitoring my own impact. It's tough to get to, it's not super tough to get to 3. To get to 1, I've tried it for 7 months in an experiment. We called it the Wiseacre Challenge. I'm a recovering New Yorker, so Wiseacre, you know? So it was tough, you know? It's possible, but it's tough. In my book, I show you how to live. It's in a chapter called the Wiseacre Challenge, how to live on a 1, a 3, and a 6 acre footprint, what you could have. And all of a sudden you see when you get below 6, it's tough. Like healthcare, you may go get a filling filled every 6 years, but you can't go every year. If you're on 1 acre, you know, it's like what the people of India or Africa have to deal with. Like when you live on $100 and in a village in India, or, you know, because the average is 350 maybe, so that, you know, India's got a huge middle class, so there's a huge population living on like 100 a year. Their reality is really different than ours. Like, you just can't go and get a tooth fixed, like, so easy. But the other thing is over there, like, things are really inexpensive. Well, why? Because they don't want the average lifestyle. So I went to get a haircut, it's 10 cents. Well, why is it 10 cents? Well, I went to the home of the person who cut the hair. And he's got 30 times less possessions than I did. His house is tiny. His family's very happy inside a tiny house. He's got a few cooking vessels that are what they need, all this food in bulk, maybe 4 or 5 lights, maybe a sewing machine, maybe, you know, 20% don't have shoes, you know, but it's not a problem because they have really thick skin on their feet. You know, they have things, but they don't have such an amount. So then they could charge 10 cents for a haircut. But if that person wanted to live like American, they would need to charge $10, you know, instead of 10 cents. So they can do it because they don't need a, so you can get, actually I went to a dentist when I was in India and it's like $3 for a filling, you know. But, so, you know, to live on 1 acre is tough. So, but the factor then is 24, to go from 24 acre to 1 acre. So when you hear 20, I've heard like 20% or whatever, that's not, it's more like factor 20 is the kind of reduction. Because we built the house of unsustainability, you know, the house of cards, so high. We're so highly unsustainable that it's like factor 24 now if we want to be, in a deep ecology way, sustainable.
How is this being impacted by the population?
So as population grows, it's even more impacted. So when we were 5 months into our Wiseacre Challenge, we said, what's missing? Because this is really tough. Would the world's people embrace a 1 acre lifestyle? And we said, no, they wouldn't. So we don't want to think of ourselves as dreamers in the mountains. So I'm a recovering engineer, and I got out my paper and pen, and I said, well, what would happen if we had one-child families for the next 100 years? And I just did the demographics. Like, every 25 years, there's a new generation, but there's only one child. What would happen in 100 years is we go from 6 billion people down to 1 billion people over a 100-year period. Instead of, if you have two-child families, we grow to 9 billion, then stabilize. Okay? So what's the difference between having 9 billion people and having 1 billion people? Wow. Okay, with 1 billion, instead of having a goal of 1 acre, you could have a goal of, say, 6 acre. And I've been living on 3 acres. And 6 is like, you don't have to get rid of the car. You just don't drive it all the time, and it's highly efficient. You use it like 3,000 or 4,000 miles a year, always have 2 people in it, and you're there, you know? You can have a house, and you can have some health care, but it's a small house. Everything is really small, miniature, like you're living in a mini yacht, you know? It's beautiful and small. We can do it. So what do we have to do to have a fully sustainable planet in 100 years? It's so simple. On average, single-child families. Doesn't mean everyone. It's not. People say, oh, you're talking about birth controlling population. I'm like, no. I'm talking about women voluntarily choosing to have smaller families. Like when I studied Kerala, the women went from, the child family size went from 6 children to 1.7 children in 40 years through education and through women empowerment and through alleviating poverty. Once women are out of poverty and women are in control of their own fertility, they'll have small families. For thousands and thousands and thousands of generations, women have had small families. And they know all the herbs to prevent fertility. And if you don't think they did, just put in 5 or 6 children families back in 50,000 years ago and do the math, and we'd have like 16 zillion trillion people. Some say, well, now we live longer and we're more healthy. No. Go talk to the Navajo, and the people who are studying Navajo said they lived into the 90s, they had perfect posture, they were thin, lean people, strong bodies, and perfect teeth. You give them sugar, you give them 2 generations of genocide, you give them residential schools, you sexually abuse the children, and then you take them out of their families, you force them into a residential school for 2 generations, and then the women don't know how to raise children anymore. They've been sexually abused and beat, and now you tell them, oh, well, you can have your freedom on this tiny little reservation, and now, oh, but look at you. You don't even know how to do anything, you lazy native, you know? So genocide is like, you can't look at things after genocide because you don't know what happens after. It's too ugly and painful. So, but for thousands of years, they had, because all the stories are there. You find all the writings of the women knowing all the herbs, and they knew how to prevent fertility, they knew how to plan their families, and it wasn't a benefit to have a lot of kids until you had factory and colonization. Then you need a lot of kids. So it was never a benefit, and they knew how to prevent fertility. So if we go back, so what I'm saying is if we do the single child family on average, so some could have 2, some could have 3, maybe you adopt, and then you adopt one, have one, and then, or maybe your brother or sister didn't have one, so you have 2 because they didn't want to be a parent. But on average, you have 1-child families for the next 100 years. On average, our footprints are 6 acres. Then in 100 years, we have 80% of the planet wild. Like 80% is wild. Like right now, we're 120% consuming it. Like I can put every bone in my body into working for 80% wild. Who could do that? Who could put every bone of your body into working for 80% wild planet? Like, could you imagine what that would be like? And the only sacrifice really is having these smaller families for 100 years, on average, single child. Then in 100, you could go back to 2. And then it could stay at 2 forever, and the population will stay at 1 billion. And we do it all through compassion, all through education, nothing forced, nothing coerced, all through education and understanding why. And then our footprints equalize. So the poor of the planet get some more, and the wealthy have fun with less. Like, do you think we can do that? Yeah! Do you think we can do that? Yeah! Do you think we can do that? Yeah!